"What's that?" she asked, pointing. It was blue, bluer than the cloudless sky above their heads, and gleaming with reflected light and bands of light crossing and crisscrossing below its surface in moire patterns. "A big pool of water," Be Good said. "The rich people like to go in it with their whole bodies." "That's what I thought it was," Madrone said, "but I couldn't believe it." She could smell the water, though, and it filled her whole body with longing. "Me neither," Be Good said. "You'd think it'd kill you to get that wet." Madrone laughed. "No, Be Good, it doesn't kill you unless you try to breathe it. Where I come from, people swim all the time." He looked at her and shrugged. It was just one more incomprehensible thing about her. She clearly remembered swimming in rivers and streams and mountain lakes, in the city pool down the street, but the memory was distant, like that of some unbelievable luxury. She followed Little John down the hillside, keeping low under cover of the brush, sliding carefully down the steep places. They waited, hearts pounding, for the sound of a shout or an electronic alarm. All was quiet. About 20 feet up from the pool, a high chain-link fence topped with barbed wire enclosed the last sloping section of ground. Little John pointed. Between one section of posts, the dirt had eroded away so they could slide under the bottom of the fence. He wouldn't have to cut it. Madrone nodded, slid down close to the fence, undid her pack, and pushed it through. No sound, no motion. Quickly, she followed, pressing herself flat into the dust to slide past the prongs of wire. Little John followed her. When they reached the bottom, she removed her 2 water bottles from her pack. They peered out at the yard. All seemed quiet. The curtains were closed at the back of the house. Not even a breath of air moved. "Now," Little John said. They ran to the edge of the pool, dipped their water bottles in, and filled them. The water felt cool on Madrone's dry hands. The smell surrounded her, cool and sweet like the odor of love. She filled a second bottle, and Little John went to work on their gallon jug. It had been so long since she'd felt water on her hands. Her skin ached for moisture. The bottles were full, and, danger or no, she had to drink. She bent down and scooped water into her mouth from her hands. Funny, she'd gotten so used to the slow, prolonged savoring of each mouthful that it was hard to make herself drink quickly. But that was what was called for here. Take in as much as she could of this unbelievable abundance of clear, cool water. There was so much of it. It had a slight chemical tang, chlorine maybe, but not enough to disturb her ecstasy. She could feel each mouthful, restoring her life. And she lay at the edge and plunged her whole head in. Diosa, it was so cool. It eased her throbbing temples and the grainy dust behind her eyes. Oh, goddess. She wanted to plunge her whole body in just for a moment, to be cool and wet and clean. It was crazy. It was dangerous. Little John was still drinking beside her, and suddenly she gave in, pulling off her shirt and pants and slipping over the side into the welcoming water. "Have you lost your mind?" she heard Little John behind her. But she was weightless, careless, caressed by water, drinking it in through her pores and her shrunken cells, feeling the pressure of it sliding past her limbs and streaming through her fingers, feeling it press against her with its weight as she plunged down, down. Her ears rang with muffled sounds. She touched the bottom, twisted, and struck out for the surface again. When her head broke the surface of the water, Little John was gone. So were her water bottles. Above her head, she heard an owl call in the daylight, the signal for danger. Up on the fire road, she heard shouts, the sound of an engine. A shot rang out. "I've done it now,"